Hey, folks, for episode number 88 of the Rental Roundtable, we had on my friend Scott Cannon. He's the CEO of Big Rents. Second time guest. He came on for episode 50, actually. We talked about his Big Rent story and a lot about what they were doing at that time. So, a year later, we talked about technology. So, very much of a conversation more than an interview. We talked about, does he think AI is overhyped in 2026 and underhyped, and gave an interesting answer. Talked about where the future of rental looks like 2036, 10 years from now, how rental companies look drastically different, particularly independents, and how we think about that. And then we talked about the big rent strategy. What are they doing on technology? It's not just AI, but a lot of APIs, integrations, and a lot of stuff they've been working on. So, love talking to Scott. Second time he's come on. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, everyone, welcome to the Rental Roundtable, episode number 88. We have on Scott Cannon, a repeat guest. He's the CEO of Big Rent. Scott, welcome back to the podcast today.
Thanks, Kyle. Pleasure to be here.
So you had a great episode. We saved the big one for episode 50. And if people want to listen to that one, we talked a lot about AI. This is even a year ago where things were. Talked about why 90% of construction projects go over budget. Talked about a lot of the AI you were doing at Big Rents at that time, which has even changed a lot even in the last year. So definitely would encourage our guests to go back to listen to that episode. Today, a lot's changed though, right? We're talking more about how AI is being implemented with equipment rental companies, what's working, what's not working. So excited for this conversation today. So, Scott, first of all, tell us what's been changing. We talked a year ago about AI. We were early. It felt like a little early days. We're still early in the scheme of things where this is going to go in the next few years. But where are we at with AI, and particularly with equipment rental? Because it feels like it's a buzzword, and in some areas it's overperforming, other areas underperforming. Where are we at right now?
Well, I think it's even been less than a year. So, I mean, and lots
Yeah,
changed in just a very short amount of time, right?
yeah,
So, AI is in the news every single day. Everybody's talking about it. I think last week the Nasdaq crashed on software companies that SaaS
yeah,
companies because the AI is making so much advancements. Within rental, we talked last year about how we deploy AI, and we're kind of old school AI. We use machine learning, structured environments to really crunch through data. And I think where I've seen contractors and rental companies perform, where they're prepared to, they have structured data, they know how to use it, or they have an application that is specific to their business. And you can see a lot of agentic AI applications. I know you guys recently launched one. I saw United launched a pretty big deal, I think, with Snowflake. And those are specifically tailored to the businesses that are run by that. So you're helping independent rental companies. I think most of us in our private lives use ChatGPT or Grok or whatever application you use to varying levels, and you've even seen those applications go from being. I think my experience with ChatGPT last year was absolutely fantastic. I'd say this year it's pretty much garbage. It's diminished, even though the speed of the models have improved. It's gotten, for a lack of a better word, dumber. So it's a very mixed progress. We've seen some people be successful, but I think the stat that I saw is like 90% of these projects fail. And
hmm
even though 70% of companies are pushing the agenda to spend more in AI, um, that's kind of the state of the union.
yeah. A little bit of a mixed bag. You said 90% of AI initiatives fail. I've seen a similar stat. Why do you think that is? Why are these all this money, trillions of dollars going into AI, driving the stock market to all-time highs? It's the biggest technology shift in our lifetime in many ways, but it's failing in certain instances. 90% of instances for certain projects. Why is that?
I think lack clear deliverables. What are you actually trying to achieve? As opposed to it's a buzzword and it sounds fantastic. So
Yeah.
if any of us have board of directors and you walk into a board meeting, one of the questions you're going to be asked inevitably, or if you talk to private equity, is what's your AI strategy? and
Yeah. Right.
and it's almost comical. And in a lot of businesses, particularly small rental companies, some don't have a need for AI. It's not there yet. You haven't taken advantage of the applications that you use on a daily basis that have these robust tools, telematics and good dispatching and integrating these software applications to really leverage the full power of what you're already paying for. And until you've done that, and then you can start to structure some of the data that you have, it's probably too early for you to go do a big AI project. And so that's where you see a lot of failing is that people they skip all that and they go right to the AI thinking it's going to go solve all these problems that you haven't really solved or fixed yet, or even knew that you needed to look at. And I think that's why most projects fail.
So they're jumping ahead. So I was watching the Olympics this weekend, and the figure skaters do the quadruple. Like, okay, they stacked years to get to that point. You didn't put your skates on the first time and go show up at the Olympics, right? You had to like chip your way there or build your way there. What you're saying is a lot of these data models aren't set up; they're not structured. It's sort of gobbledygook data, and you put an AI model on top of it, and you've now done AI. It's not working because you didn't do the precursor work to structure the data to determine what success looks like, to scope the project, all that. That's the work. The AI is actually the easy part, right? It's the
Yes.
work of structuring your data and setting up what the deliverables are. And you're saying most companies aren't doing that. They're just skipping straight to the AI.
And because our data is complicated. So if you look at rental, it's not a simple, easy process. There's
Yeah.
so many different variables when you're looking at a piece of data that you really need to understand. Looking at 5 different rentals, they could be unique. It could be different time horizons. They could have been booked at one rate and then canceled later and adjusted. There could be transportation differences, surcharges, tolls, all kinds of things that go into the data that if you're not structuring it and trying to understand where errors occur, um,
Mm,
if you're not doing that work, it's garbage in, garbage out. Like just having an application absorb, taking your data and throwing it in Chat GPT and cross your fingers that you hope you get something
yeah.
great out of it. Sure, it'd probably give you great, 90% of the generalities will be dead on, but the specifics that you need to make business decisions on, um, I don't know if there's any value there unless you've done the work. But we have so like in our case,
Yeah.
we have a data scientist on board, and then we have a robust BI team. And I'm a finance guy. I understand numbers. I can't do the math. Like it's so advanced.
Yeah.
To structure this, I don't understand it. Some of our engineers who write code, they understand the code being written, but they don't understand the logic behind it and why we do it. You
Right.
really do have to have that level of intelligence structuring your information, unless there's just an application that comes in and knows what to do because it's common on a platform. So you sell software in a space. I imagine you structure your data tables and so forth in a consistent basis. So if Quipli applies some type of AI logic, you're now applying it across hundreds of businesses, right? And the data is sort of consistent. That's good. That's fantastic. But if an independent contractor or rental company today, when it try to do that on their own, they're going to spend a lot of money, and it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to be outside their wheelhouse.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the last episode you guys have been on this AI train, machine learning for years. I don't know, 5 plus years. We have as well. Quickly, been structuring the data and doing all the work. So when you do launch an AI tool, it works, right? Because I think if you're like you said, you walk in any boardroom and you're the CEO, you say, "Hey, we launched our AI initiative." You'll get a round of applause. It'll be like, "Great, you did it. We did check the AI box, right? And let's do an AI marketing press release, and we will claim victory." And I think that's a lot of where the last 6 months have been. And you mentioned OpenAI. Last night Super Bowl. I don't know if you watched, but how many AI commercials? A dozen, right? And I think
Yeah, at
you
least.
know. I think one example of this is, OpenAI and ChatGPT have raced ahead, sort of, speed over quality, and you kind of get the crap data coming in and out, and the models aren't that good. And you have Anthropic, who went slower and steady, and now they position themselves. I think this year, this is my prediction for next year, is Anthropic will pass OpenAI in valuation in the next 12 to 18 months because they did it the right way, where OpenAI was grow at all costs, and the because of that speed, you don't really look at the quality, right? And you get all this sort of crap here. So I think the companies that are going to win are the ones who've been doing the work quietly and stacking the data and doing very discrete agents or very discrete AI projects, and not the ones that just brand themselves as AI. That'll give you a buzz for 6 months, 12 months. But I think if we kind of go out in time, is there an ROI? And what you said, 90% of the time there has not been, right? These projects have failed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fatigue because of that. So if you talk to
Yeah,
customers, they sort of roll their eyes. And it's one great thing to go develop an AI tool to use for your own business, but what's the application? How does it benefit your customer? Like
right.
that question doesn't even get asked. So I was
Yeah.
uh, I was in Atlanta last week visiting a very large contractor, and I was demoing our new SaaS product, and it's a fantastic demo, and it's very complicated software. and high level of interest. And then to go evangelize it internally, I think the feedback was teach it to me like I'm in fifth grade.
Mm,
Distill it down to very simple things that it does. And I think that's the other thing with AI. It gets way too cute because as technologists, we're very insular. We're doing things that are super cool. We know how to fix problems, but
yeah,
inevitably you got to go talk to the guy who's actually going to use it and does it add value or not. So is the guy out in the field who's driving around a flatbed with five pieces of equipment on it. What's it doing for him? Is it improving his life? Is it making it more efficient? Is he doing it cheaper? Is he able to give better service? Does he catch something that otherwise would have fallen through the cracks? Those are value added. If the project doesn't solve a problem or it solves a problem nobody cares about, then did anybody hear about it? It's kind of like the tree falls down in the forest. Does
yeah,
anybody care? It's kind of one of those things.
yeah. What in your experience, where has in the last year Big Rent seen the most success in some of the AI tools you guys have been rolling out? Where have things really worked? Where have things not worked? Tell me about your experience in the last year.
So, excuse me. Um, we've I don't know, just to give context of Big Rents, it's been around for about 12, 13 years now. And we've done over $1 billion of procurement of rental in that time. And because of that, and we've developed a network of roughly 6,000 rental companies in our network. We've seen just about every inefficiency or potential service issue that could go awry. I mean, we've seen it all. And develop these really robust tools to be very efficient and to scale that model and then use the AI to pick the right suppliers at the right time, do some predictive analysis of who will actually can fulfill things, what prices should be, and so forth. Um, but along that journey over the last few years, customers asked us if they could use the tools themselves. So as an aggregator, we make sense for a certain size customer. They're spending a couple $1 million a year, and they're doing work everywhere. That's a good customer for us, and it's good for them. But if you're
Mhm.
spending tens of millions of dollars, we're probably not the best fit. And at that point, it's can you take the tools that we have and use them yourself? And there was one big contractor. If you bear with me, I'll just tell the story real quick.
Yeah.
Um, they spent about 20 to 25 million dollars a year in rental equipment, and they had a robust procurement process. They just grind, um, rental companies in when they come in down to the cheapest price, and all the
Mhm.
big guys are sitting in there, and they dominate it, and maybe 10 to 15 others, regionals. And they gave us all the data and they said, look, could you do this cheaper? And we looked at it and said, like, no, you spend more money by giving it to us. But one of the things we learned because we had the data and we had machine learning is that if you had picked the right supplier when you're supposed to, you would have saved about 20%. So about over $4 million. And just using the same rental companies that they use today. And that sort of spurred the moment of like, well, okay, we have a really good tool, use our tool. And you don't have to use us. We're agnostic. We don't care what rental company you use. But in the process of doing that, it's a better, it's a better product and a better service for the end customer. They're happier. They don't feel they're being taken advantage. They're not. It's an
Mm,
intelligent decision. So once you get through the procurement process, you have 400 people that are ordering indiscriminately. And if they have their local largest rental company in the world guy down the street brings them donuts every week, the local guy that's in the network's not getting the love, and
mhm.
he's not getting that opportunity. And for us, we started to do API integrations with two of the top five companies in the space. And then if you look at the software within the space, there's different layers that hit the market, but that sort of independent supplier is our sweet spot. That's about 70% of our space. And there's a couple of products that are in the cloud we started to integrate there as well. So we're creating a simpler process for rental companies to get business from bigger customers they otherwise couldn't get because it just kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Mm. So you guys are using technology to make that it's effectively get more business, right? So there's a use case right there is like, using technology to grow revenue, which in my experience with AI, I think the companies and products that are growing the fastest right now are the ones that grow revenue because of two reasons. One, everyone wants to grow revenue. I've met one rental company in the last year who did not want to grow. He told me that. He's like, I'm happy with my one location. I cannot rent any more equipment. I'm like, good for you, you know? But the other 99.9% of rental companies want to grow, number one. And number two, uh, these tools are not perfect. And people listening, have you ever had AI hallucinate? And everybody will say it. And I don't know what accuracy it is, 95%, 98%. But either case, if I told you your accountant was 98% accurate closing your books, you'd be like, what the hell? Right. Like, so I think what's happening is but so you may not use an agent to close your books every month, right? Because it needs to be sort of perfect and right. But doing tasks that can help grow revenue, that is less than perfection, and I think that's why people have gravitated towards that. So, in particular, like, where do you feel like there's been, like, real success if you look at your business in the last 6 months, using AI? Have you deployed any agents, or, can you tell me a little bit more detail of what's been working so far?
No, we haven't deployed agents, and that's been an intentional. I mean, we've
Mm,
looked at all kinds of technology. We
yeah.
looked at building it ourselves, and then the various systems we have on the services side of the business. We were with a leading edge telephone provider that talked up their agentic AI and all their tools for the last couple of years. They were the
Mhm.
lead company there. The ROI never made sense. We couldn't
Hmm.
justify it. And then there were pilot programs. They never really actually developed the product they said they were going to do. They do what a lot of software companies do. They go out and they sell something before it really exists. And there we've had frustration. We've in part of our business is outsourced overseas. We offshore some of the lower end functions of our business, and the cost benefit there of agentic AI versus the cost there, it
Yeah.
doesn't move the needle. It's just, I could go develop an AI tool, but it's going to take me 4 or 5 years to recoup my money if it works exactly the way it's supposed to, or I can go deploy that capital on something that's more useful to me today. And I think that's
Uh,
the decision tree of why AI is, for me, we're not applying it in other parts of our business. Will we have an agentic AI solution at some point? Probably. It'd be great to catch missing opportunities, quotes that don't get attended to within a certain amount of time. Um, Listening to intent of somebody talking, and really realizing, are they happy, are they unhappy, scoring that, applying that against the revenue profile of the customer. Are they dipping off? What does their historical look like? How do all these trends intermix? And it's very interesting. um,
uh-huh.
but we have offshore people talking to offshore people at our
Yeah.
customers. So like eventually it's just bots talking to bots. It
Yeah.
gets a little ridiculous. And then like, where's the value? I think AI in cranking data and looking for the needle in the haystack, that's the win. I don't
Mm,
think it's replacing your customer service. Um, I mean, there are things you can do already. You guys, your software sells them to customers. Go online, have an online checkout. There's like wins before you jump from people walking in the door at your branch to going to an AI bot that basically automates it. There's so many things in between.
yeah.
Go do like those 50 to 75 things and do them well, and maybe AI catches up in the interim.
It's a good point. I think a lot of rental companies are here and we're saying, let's go straight to the agents. Well, it's like, well, okay, have you done online renting yet? Have you built a customer portal? Are you texting your customers? Let's get those hoops. Let's jump through those hoops before we get to and then by the way, there's automations, which a lot of people say are AI, but it's really just, it's the same technology from 5 years ago. It's automations. And then you kind of get to 5 other steps. Then you get to the agents. Right. And you're saying maybe let's kind of do the basics first. I'm curious in your experience, you talk to a lot of rental companies, as do I. Are people tired of hearing about AI or are they excited? They say, hey, big rents. What else is new? Give me more AI. Or are they like, gosh, man, I'm tired of everyone hitting me over the head with artificial
Yeah, so
intelligence?
AI is not the lead topic. Our
Yeah.
ARA is in a few weeks from now, and
Yeah.
our 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 drum that we're going to be beating this year is integration and API. The
Mm,
biggest friction that we cause rental companies is over communication. I mean, we just burden them with telephone calls, and we're a very knowledgeable customer, so we know how to procure equipment. We know what's supposed to happen, when it's supposed to happen, and there's that causes extra rub when you're calling a rental company 10 times with 10 different people to get the same
yeah.
question, because we got to know, because our customer wants to know. About 70-80% of what we do should be 100% automated. Like we're,
Uh-huh.
we're just go into somebody's system, book the reservation, share information, updates on service back and forth, you make model unit, all that kind of stuff, all the simple stuff. And that has seemed to be the most complex part of rental
Yeah.
to overcome. And like mentioned, that we're integrating. I think we'll have integration with the next 3 weeks with two of the top five, and both just got APIs within the last 6 months. I mean, this is 2026,
Yeah.
Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is basic, this is basic integration 101 that goes back, 20, 30 years. So deploying just basic tools is more value add today than most AI applications, from my perspective.
Well, I think that's an interesting thought, and I think for me, I've only been in the space since 2020, which is now it's going by fast, 5.5 years. It did not seem to me people wanted more technology 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it feels to me in the last year that has changed, and I think people are. I mean, maybe it's a younger generation coming in who grew up, ordering stuff on their phone, and maybe they started using ChatGPT 2 years ago. But there is way more demand for better technology, way more than there was 2 years ago, and I don't actually think it's mutually exclusive. Like, should you integrate an API? And yes, they want that. They want all of it fully integrated for sure. And they also actually want the agents, which is like, it's interesting. So we launched our agentic platform, Quinn. We announced it last month. And like, it's crazy how much demand we've gotten for it. And still in a beta version. We're not rolling it out publicly. It's like every company. We're like very contained right now. And people all the time like, dude, I'm ready to sign for Quinn. And I'm like, okay, what is Quinn? And they're like, "I don't know what it is." Like, you don't even know what it does. You don't know how much it costs, you don't know what it does, and I'm, like, a little concerned because 'cause I'm like, I could sell everybody on Quinn right now, and I get your point. Will it work? I mean, yeah, it does work in certain cases, but I don't think it's right for everybody, and it's interesting, like, to me, uh, I hate talking about AI, and I've said AI probably 400 times already today because it's like, it just doesn't mean anything anymore. It's like, it's just so overhyped. It's just sort of exhausting, you know? And at the same time, I'm still sort of stuck with like, I think it's going to be transformational. And as much as I'm reserved talking about it with our customer base, people keep asking about it. Hey, what's the AI? I want to hear about Quinn. And I don't really know what to make about it because it feels like we're in this interesting time in rental where do we want AI? Do we want integrations? I think they want all of it. I think people are not. I think the whatever reason rental companies have decided like the old legacy way of doing technology and rental needs to go. And I mean, I have a trivia question for you. You know what the average age of a rental software being used today by rental companies is? When the rental
Oh,
software was founded?
when they purchase it? Oh,
Yeah. No, sorry, not when they purchased it. When for the average rental software in market today, what year were they founded?
oh, okay. So I'm going to say probably 6.5, 7 years.
So it's actually 1997 was the year.
Oh,
What I'm
well,
saying is,
but the legacy guys are all 1990s. Yeah. So
yeah, and
I
that's
just
still,
know there's a ton of,
yeah,
there's a lot of startups that are there. So I kind of put them in several buckets. You can tell me,
yeah,
this is your space. You can tell me if I'm wrong or not. You
yeah,
have the couple legacy providers, the ones that really serve the large
mhm,
national companies. They've been around since 95, 96, whatever it is.
yeah,
And then there's one that sort of dominate mostly on-prem
mhm,
software that's sort of trying to change into to the cloud. And they've been around for about 25, 30 years as well. And then um, one primarily serves cat dealers. And then there's everybody else. The ones in the cloud,
yeah,
they're all like the last 5, 6 years.
yeah.
Um, and there's lots of small ones. They're tiny ones that are sort of starting up all the time.
So if you take the average, like a weighted average of all those, because the older ones have the biggest market share, right? So the average rental company on software today, that software is founded in 1997.
Yeah,
What I'm
that's pretty
getting
cool.
at is like, I think 90% of people on rental software today is using software that was founded before 2000, 2005. And so I think a lot of people have wanted to change. I think cloud has moved this change, mobile has moved this change, e-commerce has moved this change. I think agents and AI is like the straw that broke the camel's back. People are like, all right, I'm now ready to switch off the legacy. And even your point, like, the groups you're working with, they just came out with APIs in 2025, 20, or maybe they don't have them yet, right? And I think so. Kind of rambling here a little bit, but it just feels like it's a change. I think, and it's not just about AI; it's about technology. And it seems to me that people want better connected technology.
Yeah, I think the shift really happened. I mean, I've been here 9 years, and I will say that
Yeah.
the first four, nobody wanted to talk about technology. They rolled their
Yeah.
eyes. They're like,
Yeah.
and a lot of that is if you look at an average rental company, 70, 80% of their traffic are local walk-in people, relationship driven. It's
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
online. It's not being driven by technology. But COVID, just the whole world shifted in terms of
Yeah.
technology and all the advancements that were made in e-commerce and AI and so forth all happened in the last 4 to 5 years. And if you look at other how we run our own personal lives, like I'm with DoorDash tonight, and I just click a few
Yeah.
buttons, stuff shows up,
Yeah.
and or I'll just Amazon it, and it just shows up. I don't have to go to the store. Now I'm old school. I like to go see things in person, but I use these applications myself everywhere in my life. I think people just become accustomed to it, and if they don't have it, and if you look at if the average age of rental software is like 25, 30 years old,
Yeah.
and you look at other pieces of your business, what does your account and ERP look like, and how far is that advanced? If you have a CRM, how cool is that? And you see all these other features and these other tools that you have to use. And then you look at an antiquated system that's sitting on a server, in your back room that doesn't do, and it doesn't integrate with a dispatch software, and you got to get four applications to kind of piece it together and create a data warehouse. It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
So
Yeah. And I think,
I'm selling your software for you because your software does all these things.
I say after this episode comes out, another 20 people are to call me that they want to sign for Quinn. I'm going to say, you still don't even know what it does yet. Um, No, I do think you're right. I think COVID and then I think ChatGPT, these moments in time in the last 5 or 6 years have changed people's perception of stuff, right? And, it's like what Mark Twain went broke gradually, then suddenly. And I think that's what's happened. Gradually, then suddenly. These moments happen. And even the people listening to the podcast, another trivia question for you. We pulled these stats. What do you think the average age of a listener to the Rental Roundtable podcast is?
I'm going to say 45.
I think 34.
30, is it really 34?
34,
Wow.
34, yeah. So so the people who maybe this is my style, like they listen to Kyle, and a lot of people say Kyle's wrong about stuff, that's fine, but the people who engage with this podcast and sort of where the future's going, it's a younger generation, right? And I think that's the people we see a lot, 2nd, 3rd generation coming in. We work with a group that she came on the podcast, recently, 3rd generation woman-owned rental company, and she's coming in, taking over, and she's like, "Why am I on this legacy software from the '80s?" So the first thing she did, she switched to a new rental software, and I do think it's a generational thing that's happening as well as people are. It's just change, right? And it'll be interesting to kind of see where this head out. So I guess one question for you is, with all that being said, like when we think about equipment rental 2026, do you think AI is overhyped or underhyped?
Okay. In the short term, it's way overhyped. In the long term, it's definitely underhyped. Like
Mhm.
I'm a believe. Like I
What do you
believe all
what,
these
what do you
things.
mean by that? Tell me about that a little bit more.
So the tools available are not fundamental changes to the business today from an AI application. An AI application is going to come in and cut your cost 30% and go get you 300% more sales. Yeah, there are other factors along with the AI
Yeah.
that have to be true for that to happen.
Hmm.
But in the long term, I think there's seismic changes to rental over the next 10 to 15 years, and they're only possible with AI applications that understand the business and get trained to the point where they can do it just as well as a person who has a significant amount of domain knowledge, and be able to do it the right way every single time because it knows to do it that way. When that
Mm.
comes true, you'll see the cost structure of these businesses look different. Where people put the rental businesses will be different because there'll be a much better understanding of trends and analysis and construction of what's coming, what type of equipment, what you really need, what the market really can bear, what the market has in terms of inventory in that area, all those sort of things. There's lots of business applications that AI and data and analytics will be able to fundamentally change. Um, and then we're just scratching the surface of that. And the very very big companies in the space have a really good understanding of that, but even their understanding of it will change radically with better tools.
Mm. Well, I always think about the adage that people estimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. I think that's the same with technology change. People, as excited as I am personally around where this is moving, it's probably, 12 months from now, it's gonna move, but it's not gonna move as much as in 10 years from now. Because I think 10 years from now, things look very different. What do you think rental looks like 2036? Let's say this does take on, and it does take time, it takes a decade to get there. Like, how do these rental companies change how they operate in the next, 10 years from now?
Um, I think equipment will be positioned differently, um, and there'll be less need of redundant locations,
Mm,
or locations that don't make sense to have equipment. The types of equipment and where they're positioned geographically will change dramatically. The amount of equipment being produced will be reduced. There are some things that are just oversupplied and over manufactured, and you see the short term. And we saw it, COVID sort of ramped and everybody didn't have enough equipment and then they overbought and then manufacturers have kind of pulled back. Being able to predict that with more certainty and understand, hey, these are the trends in this geographic area, the types of construction that's actually likely to occur in the next
mhm,
5 to 10 years, and the type of equipment that needs to be there to manage that, and how much
mm,
saturation of that equipment exists there already or can be pulled in other places. So much better buying decisions in terms of what equipment to buy, when to buy it, and then when to dispose of it. So that entire life cycle is going to get much faster decision making. And if you don't have the tools or the data to compete, you'll get left behind. And that's a 10-year from now. Today, you can still build a business based on relationship, local contractors, and that's I don't think that's ever goes away because relationships do matter in this space. Like these are
yeah,
physical things where people's lives are at stake when they're getting on that piece of equipment. Somebody could get seriously hurt. You want to have that relationship. But a good chunk of the business is commoditized and will be commoditized in 10 years.
mm,
And big data will own it. And if you don't have the tools to basically compete, you'll get left behind. And that is not true with just equipment. You can say that with every large fragmented industry that exists today.
mm. That's interesting. And if we do move towards that world in the next 10 years where rental becomes a little bit more commoditized, can independents survive, and how do they survive?
Well, independents survive today. I mean, it's been consolidating for 25, 30 years. Like, so
Yeah,
the biggest
yeah,
companies face, I saw the podcast that you had, the folks that talked about the
yeah. Joe
development of that.
Condrip.
It was
Yeah, yeah,
very, very, very interesting. Their whole business, their private equity model was roll up, and they've rolled up
yeah,
hundreds of companies
yeah.
and a lot of the big ones. And if you look at the percentage of independents today, is roughly the same as it was 10, 15 years ago. And the number of companies that come into the space, they sell their business, they sit out their non compete, they come open up a business again because they understand it. Um, what that will look like in 10 years from now, I think that it's going to consolidate. There will be consolidation there. And you'll see some multi generational businesses sell out because there's not
Yeah.
that next generation to take over. That's natural. That should take place. But independents win today based on service. They beat the nationals across the board. And so like and they're a bread and butter, they're a backbone. I want a healthy, robust,
Yep.
independent rental company network to lever. They overserve. They'll do things that the other guys won't. And we track all this data. So if you look at like on time percentage, for example, our independents are roughly 98.9% on time, delivering to a job site. We use the majors as well. They typically are around 96, 97%. Uptime
Mm,
in terms of service is almost always higher at the independent. Again, you're up at 98, 90, 97% versus a 94, 90, 95%. And so that's how they win is over servicing the account, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning when something's broken and going to handle the guy that personally that's relying on you to get that job done and serve them, as opposed to you're just some number or some customer of one of a billion customers that they're going to do business with, and you don't spend enough. So the independents win there. Small contractors that they should own that market.
mm. Well, I would say there's actually a different view. I would say, which I think the independence may be stronger than ever in 10 years, and partly because I don't think that service aspect goes away. So why do independents lose today? Well, they lose because of scale. the nationals have more scale, they have more capital, they have better technology. They're still gonna have those first 2 things, but I think technology is changing so fast that it's becoming more, democratized that, like, you used to have to spend 100,000,000 plus, in R&D as a national to have this technology, but with AI, it's coming down in cost so dramatically that, like, I don't know if the tools that the nationals have are gonna be any better than what the independents have, and that will help, you know, they're
Level the
already
playing
putting the
field.
service at level the playing field, right? Because then
Yeah.
you have all those data and insights and analytics that you were at a disadvantage. Now you're on the same playing field. I think in some sense the independents are better set up than the nationals because that technology advantage I think is going to go away in the next 10 years.
Well, what the independents need to do in order to make that true is share information or have it shared across analyzed format. Because one of the
Yeah.
things the majors do is they buy equipment significantly less expensive,
Hmm.
and they know exactly when to buy it and when to dispose of it, and to become experts on that. And where the rental service is 100% independence will beat the majors there. Not having that data, that's that you could have all the tools in the world, but if you don't have the data to basically to understand and to make good decisions, that's a gaping hole.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what both of our companies are working on. I really think in the next 10 years. I mean, I'm pretty confident in this that I think the independents will have at least as good as a technology as the nationals. In some case, it may be better, which has never happened, right? Because like the innovation in our space has been driven by the nationals for a long time, right? They were the first to
Yes,
do e-commerce, the mobile app, customer portal, and then five,
but
10 years
they were
later,
they were
the
second.
independents got it.
they, were, they were
Yeah, so
second,
second.
Kyle. They were
Yeah,
second.
yeah,
There was another company called Big Rents that tried that did that.
yes,
What would come a full circle back down to our application on SiteStack? Like,
yeah,
think about that as a flywheel that is connected to all the independents, letting contractors do business directly with independents with us out of the way in a repeatable, consistent process where the technology is robust. So, like, I agree with you. We have the same motivation. We want to have an incredibly strong independent rental network and I want to see all the independents do very well. I want them to make more
hmm,
money. I want them to get a bigger share, and we're both building tools that should allow that to happen. And I think if we do our job and others do their job of complementary software that's out there, then I agree with you. I think they'll be in a much better place in 10 years. But the macro things still have to be dealt with, and we're going to have to figure out
yeah.
how to share information in a way that doesn't violate any competitive issues, to allow people to make the best decisions when they get these tools that understand how to make better decisions.
Yeah, and I think obviously Rouse Analytics was one tool to do that, and they're in a lawsuit right now, right? So there's, there's like a technology aspect of like everyone share their information. Well, that's not legal in certain
Yeah.
cases, right? So you have to do it the right way. So it does seem to me though, like going back to what we were saying maybe 20 minutes ago, is that things are changing. You were in this 9 years ago, me 5 years ago, even. I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about technology. It's the last thing I want to talk about. People want to talk about it now, which to me tells me there's something shifting, and maybe it's COVID, or maybe it was ChatGPT, or maybe it's an age, the next generation coming in. Maybe it's all those combined. It seems to me people want more technology and not less, which is different, right, than when you started 9 years ago.
I completely agree, and that's why we're pushing API so much with
Yeah,
our suppliers. That, I people come up to me and say your supplier portal stinks. I don't even want to deal with that. I just want to. Can I just click it in my system and push it to
yeah,
yours? And it's like music to my ears.
yeah. That's the future connectedness, right? And is it API connectedness or is it agent? I think it's probably both, right? I think that's where this all goes. So, um, Scott, we could talk about this probably another hour. We will limit here. We'll wrap up here. Thanks for coming on. The question I usually ask, I've already asked you, which is your best career advice you've ever gotten, but maybe best advice you'd give a rental company thinking about technology in 2026. What advice would you share with them?
I would tell them if they don't have a technology platform that's been built in the last 5, 6 years, they're not using the right technology platform. Just because if you have these legacy systems, it's just, if you think about it like a house and a foundation,
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
it's a funky house that's been built, kind of weird because you're just plugging stuff on as opposed to a clean view of the way the business should actually be run. And that there's a number of these applications that are relatively, I think, inexpensive when you look at the value they add to a business, right? And then I would be pushing for the Quinn system or any agentic AI application that made my business. So it didn't have to be Quinn; it could be whatever's available out there. and I would be pushing to integrate with all my customers' APIs. I would be trying to make their life simpler, give them tools to pay their bills, all the simple stuff that we take for granted in our lives. Let customers do that, because when you don't, it's friction. It really it causes more work. There's more cost, and it's more prone to error and more prone to service issues.
Yeah, well, totally agree. I always tell people on your first point, your rental software, or software in general, should not be older than you. And people are like, it's sort of funny, but like, yeah, wait, why is my software older than me, right? And if you have to be honest with yourself, the stuff we've talked about, where this is going in the next 10 years, is your technology partner set up for that or not? I think we all need to be honest about that. So, well, Scott, it's been great having you on. We'll have to hang out at the A ratio coming up here soon, but appreciate you coming on. Episode 50, now 88, two-time guest here. Thanks again, Scott.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Take care, Kyle.